Hey Frank,
Hey, what's up, Ed?
how we doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, dude, uh, not too bad. It's nice having a day off.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. I don't get I don't get it very often, but I still get it more than I used to. So I don't know if I'm complaining or not. I'll take it. Let's put it this way. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Try
And
for only
hey Lou,
What's going on, guys?
not too much.
how
What's
we doing
going on?
today?
Just playing with my new speakers.
They sound good.
I got those Sonos SLs.
Oh, Frank,
They're
he's
like
going all high tech, all high scale on us.
they're like this big.
Uh huh.
You don't need a receiver, and I've been playing with it because they don't show you anything, but here there's an app for the laptop you could put in, so then you could control like the music out of your hard drive. Plus, I tied it into Pandora and Spotify. You can play radio stations. You just dial in like WDVE and WMMS, and it comes up.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and the sound on those things are just phenomenal.
And that was they were. I was just showing my wife, and they're around. They're even around the corner from what you were hearing.
It's nice, isn't it?
How many?
Technology.
How many of them did you get?
Just two.
Okay.
You know, you can string those. You can put one in any house, in any room of your house, right, and they'll all connect.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about buying the beam to put on the TV.
Oh yeah, there you go. Good.
And
Okay.
you have these like in the background zone two rear speakers.
Yeah.
Do it. I mean, you're gonna enjoy the hell out of it. Do it.
You know what? When I work out of the house, I turn the radio on at like 6 in the morning. It
Mhm.
does not get shut off till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Yeah. You just have it going in the background, and
Just
it doesn't
background,
really
it's
matter
on
what room you're in.
all day.
Yeah, do it, Frank. We got to get him hooked up on like Sirius FC and things like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Because once once you start listening to Ray Hudson, forget it. You're hooked. Okay, he is.
You know
He
what? I had Sirius years ago, and I haven't had it for probably 6 years now.
Ray Hudson is the soccer equivalent of Mike Lang.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. You're hooked. Or 'cause you're from Western PA, it's like yeah, I know this guy's thick. I know where he's coming from. Yeah, you'll be hooked. It's amazing. Uh, and the sound quality out of those Sonos speakers is just phenomenal. You know, it's just so good.
Yeah. I thought about getting them a couple years ago. I'm gonna have to revisit that. I like the idea
Well,
of
you
those
know
things.
what? They I don't know if they went back up. During it, I was sitting on them because I was looking at them, and I have a membership to Costco, and they had a
Mm-hmm.
pallet sitting down there, and I'm like, okay, they were 329 for two of those little ones.
Right.
And I'm thinking, they got a pallet. I'm going to watch because you don't know what they're coming with. They give you an ad like upcoming, but then like every Monday or Tuesday, they throw online in warehouse special. Boom. Not even the employees know it's coming half the time. So what was it? Monday morning, get my email from Costco. SL1 Sonos, $80 off.
Wow.
I
Wow.
drove down and bought them.
Hey, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You have to buy these, right?
Yeah, they're there. You know what? When you see it, you better go because it just says limited supply, and that's it. Hi, guys from Hungary. Cool.
Let PM, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello.
My great grandfather was a colonel in the Hungarian cavalry at the turn of the century.
No shit.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
He came here. I still have his Hungarian Bible that he was given on Ellis Island in 1904. I believe he would have served in, I forget which war it would have been, 1890 to 1900. Franco-Prussian War. I couldn't even tell you.
Wow.
I still have that little Bible they were given coming off the boat.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Fedor was his last. Fedor was his last name. Fedor.
Unbelievable. That is the absolute beauty about these platforms that we're on, right? Is you get to even in some small way you get to connect with people who you never in your wildest dreams would expect to connect with. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's right. There are a lot of people who don't know about Hungary. Actually, the other part of the family, their last name was Dudash. I don't know how it would have been spelled at that time in Bayes. I don't know if there were common names there or not.
Absolutely fantastic.
And the other half's from Poland, so.
It's really cool that we got somebody joining us from there, and we're glad you're with us. And it's cool that Lou has a tie-in and a story to tell. That's really cool.
Where we from? Right now, all three of us are in the same city, the same area of Pennsylvania in America. To be honest,
about 80 kilometers north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, about 80 kilometers. Lou, I don't know, you did that like that, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's in the back of the head when I have to use it. It's just a rough breakdown, but
my friend, don't be sorry. Okay, just the fact that you're willing to spend some time with us. Believe me when I tell you, we're very appreciative. We don't prejudge anything.
We won't judge it at all. Yeah, welcome to the podcast, and if we can help you in any way, we'd be glad to help with your learning and all that stuff. So hopefully you'll pick up a few phrases and words here.
Yeah, honest to God, thank you. Just a word of caution: you are learning the English language, the American version of the English language from three guys from Western PA. So
the dialect of Yinzer near Pittsburgh, which is even worse.
I hope you don't have to take a test. Guys, did you happen to watch President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris last night on CNN?
No.
Did you see any of the highlights? Anything to? No, nothing. Frank, did you?
No, I read a little bit about it. I didn't actually
watch. Yeah, you did find a really good group, by the way. At least we think so. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail about what they said or anything like that. What I found. I guess the word the word that would come to mind would be promising. Was you saw a return to normal, right? You saw a president-elect who what is it, 47 days will be president, roughly. I mean, I might be off by a day or two. Don't hold me to it, but let's just say 40 plus days. And a president-elect, a vice president-elect who you guys know was my first choice, but in any case, who just I think Joe Biden said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing by a lot, so don't hold me to the exact wording. Was he said that the one thing he's going to do is the one thing I should say he won't do is he won't govern via tweet, right? Which I thought was
thank God.
I thought was really nice to see, right? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this about folks older than us who are saying, no, we're not going to do things that way, right? We're not going to sit there and say, or we're going to uh, um, advertise policy, which I guess is probably not the best way to describe it, but via Twitter. We're actually going to tell people what we say and what we think and what we feel, and we're not going to send something out over a social network platform. We're actually going to act like we're in charge of a country. And even if you don't agree with their platform or their policies, Lou, this is a step in the right direction. I mean, this is going back to where it should be, as far as I can tell.
I think after 4 years, and I mean, the gentleman there, LePay, I don't know how you pronounce his name. I mean, the world has to be looking at us either with horror, sympathy, or I don't know what. Or so are we looking from the inside out, also, just looking at what was done to our, traditional policies and ways of life, and just how it was upended by constant chaos. And we're not going to be out of it for another 47 days.
No, but Frank, it's nice to know that you can at least see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tone that's set right now, and that's the thing I was reading about. What you just said, Patsy, is that there's a tone from this administration already, the incoming administration, that is not he's not there to speak on with grandiose terms. He's not trying to go with slogans and bluster. He's talking about actual policy. He's talking clear-eyed about the challenges that we face as a country and how we're going to face those. Actually talking policy. I mean, there has been no real policy from the White House other than sloganeering over the last 4 years. So that's just a huge change. And as people from around the world start to watch that, they see that maybe we're going to be, taking our own house seriously again, and hopefully being a good participant in world events, and being the help that we always were, as opposed to, like, Lou just mentioned, this constant sideshow. What's going to come out of this guy's mouth next, and what ripple effect is that going to have on the world? So there is definitely hope. There's also the sobering idea that what's going on behind the scenes is going to have to be unraveled for a while. But I feel good about the fact that Biden understands there's going to be a challenge ahead, and he's going to appoint people and bring people in to help him unravel all those things that are messed up there, so to speak.
Lou, Joe Biden said, and I'm reading from the transcript from last night, the rest of the world is looked at us, and you've heard me say this a number of times, and I apologize for repeating it. The follow us is not just an example of our power, but the power of our example. And look at we are in the world. We're old enough to I mean, the three of us are definitely old enough to remember. And this is going to sound like some grumpy old guys, how things used to be, right? And even whenever you had a Democrat or Republican president, it really didn't seem to matter. We were still looked at in the eyes of the world, in some regard, as at least legit. Or I don't want to say people followed us, because I don't think that's a fair statement to some of the other countries in the world, but we were at least taken seriously and legitimately, and other countries and people around the world didn't have to agree with us, but they at least knew where we stood. And what we've seen for the last 4 years, and it's gone, the circle down the toilet even worse in the last 6 months, and it's going to get worse in the next 40 some odd days, is just a descent into chaos. LePM, you had a question. Please, just go ahead and post it. We'll be more than answer to. But in response of what I said, Frank, what do you think? Am I right in saying that?
I mean, that's what we hope. Certainly, we hope that that we're going to see more leadership from within here that does reach out into the rest of the world. I mean, I think people were concerned, rightly concerned around the world, in terms of what was going on with America. So I'm hoping that new ripple effect will take place.
Yeah. Lou, one of our one in our chat, and I posted it, and everybody can see it. So the truth is, I want to move to America in the future, and I'm not following the situation there. I mean, the new president, is he good, or what's happening there? Did you want to answer him real quick?
For him not knowing who Joe Biden is, he is a very good man. He's a people person. He relates to everybody. He will do his best to get through the obstruction of Congress, which you'd learn more about that reading and being here. You could see what happens. But it is, like we were talking earlier, a step in the right direction in our view. Things need to be cleaned up. There's things that have to be done. The most urgent thing coming would be the election in Georgia to take care of the Senate, or you will be stalled again.
You will be stalled. Frank, Lou touched on the idea that Joe Biden is a good guy, right? And I don't think on either side of the aisle, unless you're some extreme right-wing wacko, can disagree with that. We know people on both sides of the Atlantic. How would you address this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I would say, a couple things in terms of thinking about moving to America. One is consider where you want to kind of set your roots down when you get here. You can always move around pretty freely in America. That's, state to state, as you probably know, Leppy, but, you might want to, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that your situation is terrible in your country. We kind of have gone through a very rough time ourselves here, but I think we're seeing the end of the end of the tunnel. The rough period may be hopefully ending in this near future. But I would suggest, if you're looking for work, maybe do some research online about what areas have the most kind of work that you're familiar with doing, and maybe set up your search for around that area. If you're looking for good weather, I mean, we have the Southwest is one of the best areas for all year round good weather, from probably south part of Arizona all the way over to San Diego, California. But the bottom line is there's so many different regions, so many different opportunities, and America is so diverse that fortunately with a president like Biden, the best thing is he's probably not going to interfere with the fact that America can thrive in it being America again. We were kind of hamstrung for a while because everybody was paralyzed by this basically person who was co-opting and taking over everything in our country with his craziness, quite frankly, sorry to say, but he was constantly had everybody on edge. And now I think everybody's able to get back to their jobs, or they're able to get back to hopefully fighting this pandemic. And that's the other thing I would think about. We've got to get this thing under control in our country, and hopefully we're going to get it under control. But you're coming to a country that right now is in the throes of, let's face it, Japan has had like 2,000 some hundred deaths from COVID since the beginning of the pandemic. United States of America has had eclipsed that number in one day recently. Yeah. So we need to get things straightened out here, which hopefully we're on the right path to doing. But I would just be a little cautious and wait till maybe do some research, find out where you want to land, so to speak. Be glad to talk to you offline about ideas like that if you want to. But also give yourself some time to kind of let us get our situation settled with this COVID situation, because I think we're going to get better. But it's going to take a few, 5 to 6 months before we start to really turn the corner on that.
Yeah, it's really, Frank touched on a lot. Look, we can't even begin to change until January 20th, right? And that's like the first day that President Biden will actually become President Biden. He's president-elect right now. So you figure you got to give him a little bit of time to get his policies and everything going. So that 5-6 months, Frank, is probably spot on. Um, if you have to come over, earlier, just know that there are positive things on the horizon, and for as far as immigrants and immigration, and uh, having a fair shot will improve and it will get better. I'm saying this, and I'm assuming, like, if you come over tomorrow, right? Which I know is not necessarily true, but I'm just kind of setting this example up. Know that things will get better. There's no doubt in my mind that things will get better. I think all of us, kind of feel that way. Uh, United States has always been a melting pot, and it seems like the last 4 years we forgot that, or refused to acknowledge that, is probably a better way of putting it. Uh, but you are seeing a change, and it is coming on the horizon. And you know, I would not be uh, I would not be as scared to come over come January 2021 as I would have been coming over in the last 4 years. I really wouldn't. I think you're going to see some very positive things happening. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Government works slow. Government moves slowly. It always has. And I don't think it's just in the United States. I think that's worldwide. Uh, but it will. If you're planning on coming over, let's face it, you're probably not going to come over, before Christmas anyhow. Uh, at least well, maybe you are, but statistically speaking, you probably aren't. Um, no, the good things are coming. Good things are on the horizon, and living through this bullshit for the last 4 years, Lou, I'm pretty confident you're going to see a positive change.
Here, let me throw this at him where he can relate. I don't know if you've read much about their clown in charge, Viktor Orban. He succeeded where Trump failed. And this is the reason things will be getting better here and why you're looking to come. The United States, with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in charge, will start going back toward the attitudes of, say, Germany and France, instead of where Hungary's sitting right now in Brazil. Orban, I know from reading, he is another authoritarian figure that did some finagling to have power over their parliament or Congress. So, things, I feel for you there. We've had this clown for 4 years. I don't know how long Orban's been in power there.
Well, Leffy, we're happy you found this too.
Yeah, we are too, and you're welcome. We're glad to help you any way we can. You're right, Lou, that Orban, I've been reading about him. He was one of I think he actually preceded Trump, if I recall correctly. There was a guy in Austria, and then there was Orban, who was rising to power in Hungary, maybe before Trump came into power here. But yeah, he's been exerting more and more power throughout his term there. In fact, I saw something where there was a spat between his administration and George Clooney, because I guess George Clooney was advocating for more freedoms in Hungary, and how he had been to Budapest, a number of years ago for some work he had done, and how he loved Budapest, he loved Hungary, but he was saddened to see what's going on there with Orban. And of course, the Orban administration, attacked George Clooney for saying anything negative about him.
Of course.
Which, yeah, that's what authoritarians do, right? They can't take any criticism. They can't take any kind of being called out. So, yeah, I really hope that you can find. I know when you feel that oppression, and you want to escape it, and that's what America has been for a while. Like, we've been a haven for that kind of thing, and hopefully we can be that again. Hopefully we can be that, that place, that destination for people to find their new life and find a great life and be able to succeed here.
Yeah, and that's happened to all of our families, whether we're 1, 2, or 3 generations removed. Right? We have family members that can all relate to that. Leppy, if you have any questions, please, you can DM us if you don't want the world to ask, to see what your questions are. We'll be more than happy to do our best to help you out. We don't have a whole lot of pull-out space, and we have a podcast here, but we can tell you, we can put you in the right direction. I'm sure. With the whole COVID situation, guys, one of the things that was asked to both President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, which is probably more significant whenever Jake Tapper actually asked Kamala Harris this first. And he asked, and again, I'm paraphrasing here. He asked if whenever the vaccine was available, would she get it? Would she take it? I guess. And I'm blowing through a whole lot of history of what's happened to the African Americans here. So we really don't have time to get into it, other than to say it was tragic. But she said unequivocally, she didn't even hesitate. She said, yeah, she'd absolutely get the vaccine.
Hello.
Frank, do you, first of all, two questions for you. I'm going to ask you a stupid question, and then I'm going to follow up. Obviously, I'm assuming you would get the vaccine if it was, by the time it gets down to us, we're not exactly a high priority. But how significant is it, do you think, that somebody like Kamala Harris was more than willing? I mean, she jumped on it quick and said, yeah, absolutely, I'll take it. What do you think?
I think it has an impact in terms of absolutely what you've already kind of alluded to, that there are folks that, may be skeptical, and, it's a voice in that community. I'll just relay this real quickly. Whenever I worked heavily in legal services, and when I say legal services, it's different than being an attorney. Legal services is nonprofit law firms that serve underserved communities that can't afford attorneys across the board, for whether it's housing issues, work issues, civil rights, anything like that. So when I worked in those communities directly, the knowledge that I had of the law was important. The knowledge I had of the law was important to impart upon any group that I was talking to. But I found that inevitably, when I had somebody of color or that was from the community I was speaking with me, if they spoke first, or if they, gave their imparted what they had to say, that carried a lot more weight than my voice did, because they were viewed as one of the community, and there's a trust level that's already there in that sense. There's a relatability that's already there, that isn't forced, that isn't faked, that's authentic, right? So those things are inherent in her saying that, and it's real. So I have to say that, beyond just anecdotally, living, more experiences than one in that situation, I think it has a lot of weight.
Yeah, I think so too. Lou, before I get you involved, let me go to sleep, brother. I know what it's like. I got to wake up early and go to work tomorrow too. Thank you for joining us, Lou. That says a lot. Biden pretty much said he's going to join, and he mentioned his predecessors, right? And he mentioned Obama and Carter and Bush. Notice I found it quite interesting that he didn't mention Trump anyway. But he said that, yeah, he would definitely, and he'll do it in front of a camera. He'll do whatever it takes in order to show people that it's safe. What do you think about that? And my second question is, do you plan on getting it whenever it's available to us?
What the hell? I've had more scam calls here in the last hour than I don't know what.
Well, it's because they know. It's those Republicans trying to silence us, Lou.
That's what it is. You know what? It's with him doing that, with W in on it. And you know what? It wouldn't hurt. You have the presidents. You know what? Get a couple other prominent. You know what? Get Mitt Romney and Susan Collins up there too. I don't know.
Why not?
Just to allay any fears, because there's going to be a lot of people that would have taken it for Trump, but not for this administration.
Yeah.
So if you get a bipartisan look, here's 10 of us, all bipartisan. Let's do it.
Look, Frank, you think that's a good idea that he I don't know, let's just be stupid and naive for a minute. And let's say he invites, Romney and Susan Collins and I don't know. I mean, he can even invite McConnell, even though we know he wouldn't do it. But let's just say he gets a couple of mid-tier or higher Republicans to do this.
You know what? Mike DeWine, Mike and the Garling, what's his name? Governors.
Yeah. What's the governor from Maryland's name?
Larry Hogan.
Larry Hogan. There you go.
Yeah.
To me, that's a pretty good idea. What do you think?
I mean, I could definitely see some of those guys doing it, like you said, DeWine and Hogan. I could see them doing it. They've been vocal in the combating the spread and of trying to battle this disease. I think at any time you've got a chance of instilling confidence in the public around this, and I think it'll help. I'm sure there's going to be people who resist regardless, because there's going to be those MAGAs that want to believe that this isn't that there's a microchip in the shot, or that this is something that's going to be government control, or whatever they want to say about it. But then at the same breath, half of them are trying to give Trump credit for the Operation Warp Speed being the impetus behind this vaccine. So, I'm almost of the mind that, look, if it means everybody, stopping the spread of this by killing off the virus because it doesn't have a host to live in anymore, you want to give them credit. That's fine. If it's going to make you take it, that's fine.
Yeah, Lou, I was thinking the same thing. Do you really care who gets credit for it as long as this thing goes away?
No, not really. I guess as long as it isn't Trump.
Honestly, you know what? I don't care. If Trump wants to take credit for doing these things, fine, let him. With everything that we have to do, with all the damage that he's done and everything that has to be repaired, if he wants to take credit for this, fuck it, let him do it, because there's so much more that needs to be done. I'm not going to argue against something so petty as give me credit for this. If the people I care about and the people I love are safe and don't have to worry about it, if he wants to take credit for it, that's fine. Fuck him, let him. At the end of the day, everybody knows the truth.
Yeah, and it needs to be administered across the board. They're targeting healthcare workers. I mean, the healthcare workers in Youngstown are in trouble. Cleveland Clinic, I know, are in trouble. There's so many infected. And how they're going to do it, they're going to have to, after they target the healthcare and the elderly and the susceptible, then it's going to have to be targeted, I would think, toward the hot spots.
Right.
And
again, the minority communities are going to be the last to they're going to be pulling up the rear again.
And it all needs to be free to those communities.
Well, it should be free to everybody. It should be the polio vaccine, right? When you consider how many people have been killed over this whole thing.
And that's something Biden did say, that he was going to make sure that it's free to every American that needs it, right?
Well, that's what he's going to push. Do you really think he's going to get that through?
We'll see.
We'll hope, right? We can always hope, right? All we can do is hope. It was a good interview. One of the questions that was brought to them yesterday or last night was this idea of schools, right? And the question, the way it was presented was, and I thought Kamala Harris did a great job of navigating through this and not. I don't want to say taking the bait, because I don't think Jake Tapper really is somebody to try to bait people. I think he actually asked them pretty hard questions, and they did a great job of answering them. But one of the questions was, you have folks like Fauci who are saying that we got to get the schools open again, yada 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 yada, and went down that rabbit hole. And he contrasted that with the teachers unions who are saying, look, we have to keep our people safe, and we're not going to we don't want to go back to school because we don't have a safe environment to go back to. And the question was presented to Harris first, was, well, who do you side with? And she answered with, well, you side with both, right? You side with the professionals who can understand this and know what this thing is going to do, and you bring the teachers and the teachers union involved, and you bring them in, and you come to basically the three. We all sit down and we figure out a way to navigate through this. And I guess, Lou, my question is, after seeing that, or even hearing from what I told you, how different is that from where we've been for the last 4 years? Yeah, I threw you. I threw you a snowball.
Yeah, talk about an antithesis or 180 or whatever. Christ, that's a 720 the way that's been. 184 times,
Um,
it's it's just what this administration proved to me. He got rid of the people that were there to serve in a capacity at the beginning for yes men, yes women, and it just proved. I always wondered how the hell you bankrupt casinos and businesses at that kind of rate. Well, he has proven it to me in the last 4 years how he did it. And I don't think any one of us three sitting here could have done that if we tried with $1 billion.
Right. I could spend stupid money, right, on stupid things, but even this would be a far reach for any of us to be able to do.
I agree. I mean, you just have to. I mean, who's he lining pockets of? How much of the money is he, just socking into his own, accounts and friends' accounts and families' accounts and things like that. Maybe foreign accounts. God only knows, right? So, but yeah, I mean, and going back to what Kamala said about trusting the experts and I think that's. Obviously, it's a departure from where we've been. There's been conflicting noise, undercutting experts. If an expert says something that the president didn't like, he would find a way to undercut it. So, I got to believe that this administration is going to say they're going to talk a lot with the folks that are their experts, and they're going to make sure that their line of thinking is clear and that the message is clear. That's one of the things that, I know it irritates a lot of people about the bureaucracy in things at times because it takes longer when you have to go through bureaucracy. But I can tell you, someone who's gone through meetings with folks, when you're putting something out that's public facing, it's a lot better to have 3 or 4 hour-long meetings over the course of a few weeks and have everybody go to their subcommittees and come back and talk about what you're going to do and get it right than it is to have one person run out the door and say, here's what we're going to do. And then everybody come to you and say, well, why did you say that? We have to think about this and this and this and this. And you didn't think about that when you ran out the door and told the public about what you were going to do. And that's the way Trump operates. He just wants to run to the public and tell them everything's going to be fine. I got it all taken care of. And it's going to go away next week. It's not, there's one person here, whatever. He didn't listen to anybody. He didn't want to hear it from anybody. So when the actual facts came out, of course it was incongruent with what he had been saying. He didn't take any information in.
No. Lou, I always said, even whenever you and I worked together, I even then I said it's far better to be right and late than half-assed and immediate. Well, what do you think? I know government works slow to begin with, but do you think it's a better idea to just like take a step back and make sure we have all of our shit together before we start doing anything? And because we've been used to half-assed everything for the last 4 years. It's almost become normalized, right?
Well, how many times do we, with what you deal with and what we used to deal with, what's that one decimal point mean if you don't step back and take another look at it?
Yeah, it means a lot.
And I think this is the same thing. Yes, there's a lot of promise from what we heard. You know what? I hope Pfizer and Moderna and who was the other one? AstraZeneca. I don't know who the third was. I hope they stopped and stepped back and took a look too.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second, Frank. Because at the end of the day, these pharmaceutical companies, their reputations are on the line, right? And they're not going to come across half-assed because they're going to lose far too much money if they do.
Yeah, I mean it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but let's face it, you've got three big players in on this right now, maybe four if you count the one that's partnered with Pfizer, that Bion Med out of Germany. Nobody's going to be first to the race at this point. There's three of them / four of them in the race. So I think that they all kind of see that, and that's another check on this, what you're saying, because if somebody races out to be first, but they screw up, the other two are standing behind them saying, we got it right. And then you're damaged forever vis-a-vis those two companies, because what's the next thing that comes out?
Right.
What's the next drug that's going to be addressed on something? And you look to the other two companies that got it right to get it right in the future. So absolutely, I think that because there's those three players there, it's more of a safeguard for the public in that regard.
Oh yeah, and the Cambridge one went from 70% to 95% in the course of 8 hours.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're no longer a player in this game.
Yeah.
Right. So that tells you all you need to know about that. Pharmaceutical companies are, by definition, sleazy as fuck. But at the end of the day, if they can't provide a cure or a way of combating whatever ails somebody, then they're no longer in business. Right.
Right.
So it's in their best interest to make sure that they got their shit together before they come out and tell everybody that, okay, we have this and, it's this effective. And, they need to have their shit together for a cure before they come out and tell everybody that they have a cure. So if anybody wants to sit there and say, well, what about this and what about that? That's all you need to look at. Look at Cambridge, right? Just look at the English one. There's no way you go from 70 to 95% in 8 hours, right? And then expect the world to take you seriously. It's just not going to work.
No.
There's something I want to show everybody. I found this quite a bit both interesting and disturbing. Just to put this in perspective for anybody watching who thinks we're full of shit. This is just today, okay? And this was at noon today. American deaths in the day. Hurricane Katrina was 1,800 and some change. Pearl Harbor was 2,400 and some change. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're American, you've heard of Pearl Harbor. The Tet Offensive, which some people may or may not know, was 2,600. Obviously, that was rounded around because there's no way in hell it came out to 2,600 even. Hurricane Maria was 2,982. 9/11, which everybody on the fucking planet remembers, was 2,996. Just today in America, 2,702 people. And this was at noon or 12:35 today. 2,702. This is how serious this shit is. I don't even want to start to bitch and complain about these idiots who were refusing to see these numbers and refusing to look at these numbers and I don't want to say legitimize. What's the word I'm looking for here? acknowledge them. But dude, we have 2,700 deaths just today. Just today. In a way, it's a damn good thing we have, what, 350 million people in this world, in this country? Because we're dying at the rate of 9/11 every day. I think the number is, if and I might be wrong, and excuse me if I am, but we're looking at like 2 Americans dying every minute. Think about that for a second.
There was 111 cases in Lawrence County on Wednesday. 111 in Mayberry.
In Mayberry, right? And what's the problem with Mayberry? Well, it's rural, so our healthcare isn't as good as it is, and say, pick any, any of the boroughs of New York, pick anywhere in Las Vegas or Los Angeles or Chicago or anything like that. We're a rural area, so our healthcare sucks compared to those areas. Frank, that's a whole hell of a lot of people that are dying every motherfucking minute. 2 every minute. Every 30 seconds, somebody in this country dies. Every 30 seconds. And we're still having a bullshit argument over this stuff. And we're still trying to tell people to wear a fucking mask. Every 30 seconds, somebody dies.
It's amazing. I know that the story I told last week about the cheese house, I saw it made some impact. I'll tell you another one. Last night I went to Sheets up on Wilmington Road, Sheets in Neshannock Township. And I was there. It would have been around 9:30, 9:45 last night. Store had quite a few people in it. I had ordered online. I sat in my car watching for a few minutes because there were people in there without masks on. There were people with masks on. The workers were, of course, masked. They have the glass plexi shield up there at the counters, but there were college-age kids walking around, probably 3 or 4 of them, 4 at my count, that had no mask on. And there were about 4 other ones that did have a mask on. And I waited for at least a couple of them to leave, and I went in and I got in line. And by the time I got to the counter, I was the last person there in the store, more or less. There might have been somebody in the back. And I just quietly asked the cashier, I said, are we not required to wear masks at this point? I'm not sure. I honestly, from the standpoint of Sheets, is it a requirement? She said, well, we have mask station right over there. And I said, I know that. I said, and I'm very thankful that Sheets as a company did that. I said, but I saw 3 or 4 young people here without a mask on. She said, well, I guess they're just kids. And I said, yeah, I guess so, but it's raging right now in our community. And they just kind of sat there like, what do you want me to do? And I came home and I told my wife, and she said, there are people in this country that have gotten shot for telling people to put on a mask. And that's how sad it is, right? Mm-hmm. That, they're probably sitting there thinking, I go to make $7.25 an hour. I'm not going to take this hassle of.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
No. Lou, it's not just Neshannock, right? I stopped at the Sheets in Union Township yesterday on my way to, my side gig, and 6 people in there, 3 of them weren't wearing masks.
It's, it's worse in this area. If you go into Pittsburgh, you won't see the percentage like you do here.
Nope.
I've been in Lowe's quite a bit, obviously, because of what I've been doing here. Just amazed at the people that don't have them on, and they have them at the door.
It absolutely amazes me that these companies, these stores, these whatever, refuse to enforce a policy. Look, I keep harping on the same thing. I don't go to Walmart, right? I absolutely refuse to go to Walmart. If I go there, trust me, I announce it because it's a rarity, right? It happens like 3 or 4 times a year. When you're as big as motherfucking Walmart, and you're really the only game in town, and let's face it, out here, you're the only game in town, right? People are not going to go anywhere else because there's nowhere else to go. It's not like they have a choice. How the fuck are you not enforcing a mask policy? What are people going to do? Not show up at your store? People live to go to Walmart. How the fuck are these folks saying, no, I'm just not going to go? It's not gonna hurt their daily sales by a fraction. It's simply not going to. Yet these stores refuse to enforce a policy. It absolutely.
You know who's enforcing it? Well, I live closer, obviously, to Giant Eagle in Poland than the one in the Shannock.
Mm-hmm.
Try walking into that Giant Eagle without a mask.
Can't do it.
No, they got security now at the front door, and I've never seen security in that store as long as I've gone in there. They have one standing there.
Yeah, and you're not getting in without a mask.
No.
It's absolutely, Frank, it boggles my mind. It absolutely boggles my mind. These companies are not going to go broke. Now, if you're, like Willer Hardware way back in the day down in Mahoning Town, right? I can see them doing, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it, right? Because you're a little mom and pop thing and maybe you can't afford to be turning people away. But goddamn Lowe's can afford to tell people, put a fucking mask on or you're not coming in, because where the hell else are you going to go?
Yeah, and like Lou said about in Poland and Pittsburgh, and I go to Baltimore, as you know, and I go to places around there, and it's not even really a question. I mean, everybody's wearing them. If somebody walks in by accident without their mask pulled up or without one on, they stop the people as they're entering the door, whether it's just a person at the counter or there's a security guard, and they just politely say, "Sir, can you make sure your mask is up before you enter the store?" And it's just a matter of fact. It's not an attack. It's not, hey, you idiot, put on your mask. It's just, hey, we're reminding you, sir, can you just put up your mask before you walk in the store? That's all. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do.
It's funny because the place where I kind of where I have a supplemental income has they have two facilities, and one facility we seem to be enforcing that the mask rule far more strictly than we are the other facility. And I honestly believe that one of the reasons why is because most of the people who are working there whenever they're greeting people, whenever they come in, and it's like they are older, and this is going to, and I don't mean to sound, sexist by any means, but are normally older women, and they simply can't or won't have get themselves in a situation where there's going to be a conflict, right? So in essence, they're intimidated, and it's a hard thing for them to have to put to do, because no one wants to sit there and do their job. And I mean, and I'm going to be honest with you, right? I mean, it's $8.50 an hour, so it's not like you're making a shit ton of money, right? I mean, it's enough for me. It's beer money, right? But it's still helping pay bills. Considering I can't charge for a school right now, and I can't do the seminars and things like that I used to do, because we just can't do them now. So you have to supplement your income somehow. And I understand some of these folks who are elderly, who are very vulnerable people to begin with, who don't want to have the conflict or risk a potential conflict. And these clowns who are refusing to wear masks know that, right? They know that, and they play on that, and they leverage that, and it puts some of these people in a very, very difficult situation. It's very tough for some people, but as a policy, when you go into the Walmarts and some of these big box stores, it's not always the elderly people or the older women or whatever you want to say who have to deal with these people, right? I mean, it's guys our age or younger, and they're still refusing to do that. And it's quite disconcerting, to be honest with you. Do you think it's a sign of the area that we live in, Frank, that's doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think partially, and I think that because it hasn't been taken under control early enough. It's just like in a sporting event, or you know, let's say you went to a tournament one weekend and you saw people that were, you know, taking their taking liberties with how they were handling situations, and maybe the officials weren't calling it out. As the weekend goes on, do you think it's going to get worse or it's going to get better? Because other people see it. Yeah, other people see it and they say, "Oh, they got away with it. I can get away with it too." So you see that same situation here, and people are emboldened to not wear a mask because, you know, nobody's been checked on it from early on. So I don't know. You know, it may be that there's, you know, more folks in this area doing that, and it gives them more cover. And then the people who are supposed to enforce it feel less confident in enforcing it.
Lou, I mean, some of these folks simply don't want to have the conflict. I mean, and I don't blame them because I know some of them, and you know, they may be parents or grandparents. Most of them are grandparents, right? And I don't mean like your age grandparents. I mean like in their 70s or 80s grandparents, right? Who just they're I don't want to say they don't feel confident engaging in a potential conflict, uh, or they're, you know, an 80-year-old woman never really had to stand up and say, "Look, this is what you're going to do, or else," right? Because unless it's their kids, it's a tough situation for them to be in. I truly feel bad for them because they can't help. No one should be in that position.
No, and it's and that's like I said, I see a lot more of it up around here
Yeah, you see it here.
than I do walking into Pittsburgh or somewhere.
Yeah, you see it here all the time, right? Small backwards communities. This is, and you know, communities like ours are pretty much the most vulnerable, right? They're very right leaning. A very significant percentage of the population buy into the bullshit that this isn't as bad as it seems, and we don't have healthcare facilities who are capable of handling uh, anything like this. I mean, it's just not possible. So you got an 80-year-old grandmother who's just doing something. I don't know what to say because they need it, or maybe she just doesn't want to stay home and be bored, or whatever the case may be. But in any case, never signed up for it for something like this. It's hard to get them to administer a policy that, by definition, because of the area that you're living in, is going to attract conflict. You know,
And
it's
did you
hard.
see Butler Memorial Hospital is maxed out on ICU beds. So is Clarion. Newcastle's about there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, St. Joseph in Warren, Ohio is maxed. I don't know about Sharon General or Farrell. They got to be getting close.
Well, Farrell's small as hell, so you figure they're close.
You know, and it's the same thing up there. You got a lot of that county is same way as this county.
They may be worse than Lawrence County.
Yeah.
You know, Mercer County, Frank, may be worse than Lawrence. You know,
Yeah.
As far as these MAGA idiots.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I can't even think of a pocket in Mercer County other than Farrell, certain parts of Farrell that maybe a little bit of Sharon that has the mentality of, you know, listening to science, so to speak, listening to medicine. The rest of that county seems like it's all red MAGA.
Terrible. So I really feel bad, you know, for some of these folks that they're in a position where they have to start enforcing policies that they know they're going to get resistance to. It's got to be very hard for them. There's going to be a lot of anxiety involved. You know, personally, you know, I mean, for me, I don't care because, I mean, come on, you guys, I mean, come on, I don't care, right? I just don't. But you know, I'm 80 whatever, and I'm not female, and I'm not, you know, most people don't have the same background I do, right? And so I feel bad for them because they just, even if they were equipped, it's too far along that they're just not going to. They're just not, and let's be honest, they should not be in a position to have to enforce, things like this where people are going to they're going to get the resistance that they're going to get. And it's unfortunate that these folks are subjected to this, but that's the MAGA mentality for you, right? Because I will tell you, two different parts of town, you get two different attitudes. You really do, and that's unfortunate. And it's not like we live in a metropolis, right? It's terrible. Oh well, guys, let's wrap this up. Anything you guys want to say before we call it a night? Frank, I lost you.
I hope it's a quiet weekend. How's that?
I do too. Lou, your Steelers look pretty good.
They look like hell Wednesday.
They look like shit, but they pulled out a win. Come on.
Yeah, that.
You know what?
Pulled out, lost Bud Dupree.
Tells you a lot.
Years past they would have lost that game, and the fact of the matter is, it's almost like they looked like they hadn't played for 13 days, and they were playing a game on a Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon. I mean,
yeah.
I don't like this, but come on, it was the weirdest. It's 2020 exemplified, isn't it? We had Robert III throwing to Des Bryant. I mean, like if you woke up out of a coma that started last year and you flipped on your TV on Wednesday and said, wait a minute, the NFL's playing on Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon, and Robert Griffin is wearing a Ravens uniform throwing to Des Bryant wearing a Ravens uniform. I must still be dreaming,
Frank, you and I both follow the same side. They've played games where there's no way in hell they should have won that game, and yet they did.
Yeah.
And the Steelers are doing that. They're winning games that at least this one they shouldn't have won. Says a lot about them. I don't know. I like their chances of maybe ending the season with one loss. Maybe
Looks
right. Looks that way. It's something. It's something to see. And I'm not even a Steelers fan, but I tell you, I got to be honest with you. I'm enjoying watching them.
Yeah,
I really am. Right, because my Raiders are shit in the bed. So I got to. I might as well cheer for my wife's side.
Dangerous. Hey, you guys have a good weekend.
They play Monday at 5.
Yep. Folks, for everybody watching us, thank you so very much. Leppy M, thank you for joining us. You're probably asleep by now, but thank you for joining us and everybody else. We will be back on Monday. Same bad time, same bad channel. But until then, everybody, thank you so much. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody.